Hello and welcome to the View From The Vic, our new official Watford Football Club podcast. I'm Jon Marks and I'll be with you every week to bring you news and views from the Hornets camp, and I'll be joined by special guests throughout. Plus we'll hear your supporter stories in our regular fan features, the one that got away and the extra mile. Very shortly I'll be joined by midfielder Tom Cleverley, former player, coach and manager Malky Mackay, and as always Kevin Affleck, who works at the club as a media consultant, will be with us too. Plus we'll hear from Gerard Deulofeu to find out how his recovery from his knee surgery is progressing. It's Easter weekend. We should have been heading to Stamford Bridge to face Chelsea, of course. But despite the good weather, we must all keep following the advice to stay at home, which will protect the NHS and ultimately save lives. We've got plenty to keep you entertained on this week's podcast, plus lots more on our website at watfordfc.com and across our social media channels, of course, too. Well, delighted now to be joined on The View From The Vic by our trio of guests. So hello and welcome to Tom Cleverley, Malky Mackay and Kevin Affleck.
Hi, John.
Hi, John.
Afternoon,
John. Tom, how you doing? How's life in lockdown for you? Homeschooling and things like that?
Yeah, to be fair, after 2 or 3 days, we got it pretty routined. Me and my missus, I'd go out first thing, either on a run or on the indoor bike. Get that done and then spend time with the kids in the garden as much as possible, with the weather being good, and a few things around the house that we wouldn't normally get to do. So it's trying to take the positives out of a strange situation, really.
Malky, how's life in sunny Edinburgh? The missus got a list of jobs for you to do?
Yep, I've colour-coded all my shirts in the wardrobe. That's the most exciting part of that. We're still working from home at the moment, Kev. So I'm on a kind of Zoom call. I'm on these Zoom calls most of the day to other parts of the Scottish FA departments. But we certainly make sure that we take the kids and we got a 2 or 3 mile walk every day, run a bit of lanes here in the back of Edinburgh. So just as Tom said, just trying to get a routine.
Are you teaching Callum the arts of defending in the back garden?
I've told him where to punt it over into the following field, and then he's got to go and get it. Yes, I have.
And Tom, we were talking to Stacky a couple of weeks ago. Any detentions been handed out in your household?
Yeah, there always is on a daily basis. I think that the biggest thing for my 3-year-old son, he sees my 6-year-old daughter as a bit of a challenge. So he there's constant fights and arguments, but we try and police it as well as we can.
Well, just before we continue, I want to give everybody who's listening at home the first 3 clues for this week's trivia teaser quiz. A reminder, last week's answer was Ronnie Rosenthal. I've tried to go a little bit harder this week. Malky, Tom, if you think you've got it, just keep it to yourselves for the moment. We'll go through with some more clues later on, but I reckon you might get it quite soon. Here we go. This man was born in 1979 and played 83 times for Watford. He still is, probably 5'9", and he played for 10 different clubs during his career and represented England at under 21 level. More clues to come a little later on. Any thought? Don't say the name, but any thoughts? Think you've got him?
There's one that sticks out for me, yeah.
Great, I've gone too easy again. Excellent. So more clues to come later on if you haven't got it. Wanted to start, Tom, with there was a big announcement last night from Premier League players launching the Players Together initiative. I know you were telling me you played quite a big part with Troy on our behalf on that initiative. Tell us a little bit more about it and your involvement.
Yeah, so we were approached by Jordan Henderson about a week ago, saying that it'd be good for the players to get together and do something. I mean, this was before we were getting political pressure and things like that. We thought we're in a position as a group of 500 or whatever Premier League players to really make a difference. And to be fair, credit to Jordan Henderson, he's put a load of work in getting all 500 players or whatever it is in the league together, setting up accounts, speaking to charities, speaking to all the captains and PFA delegates, and that went live last night. So yeah, I think players can either donate by transfer or coming out of wages at the end of the month and so on. So it's really good. We should get a good amount of money and straight to the front line where it's needed.
Malky, how's the Scottish game being hit? How hard is it for you up there?
Yeah, it's really hard, to be fair, John. I'm delighted to hear that from Tom. I think having read a lot of the politics that's gone on over the last couple of weeks, and I shake my head at times because I actually have seen firsthand over the last few years what exactly footballers do away from the club and the amount that they actually do for the local communities. And to hear that Jordan's going around and Troy and Tom, real leaders and real young men that people look up to, and are actually going to put something together for the front line of society at the moment, heartens me. It really does. As far as Scotland's concerned, we've been hit really hard. Obviously, it's not a particularly affluent league, and there's a lot of clubs hanging in there at the moment in terms of survival. There's a fair amount of people being furloughed. It's quite a lot of the Scottish FA actually. Out of the 170 odd people that work at the Scottish FA, there's an awful lot being furloughed. But as far as clubs are concerned, the same aspect of actually closing down leagues and finishing leagues, because obviously there's payments given to clubs in terms of finishing whatever position they finish. There's some pressure as far as that's concerned, but at the same time, obviously there's relegation and promotion, and that will cost clubs dearly as well. So it's tough times up there at the moment in Scotland up here, but at the same time, both the league and ourselves are trying to do everything we can in our power to pull together to actually try and pull forward money that's maybe not due to football clubs for another 6-9 months, and make sure that everyone tries to come back from this and we don't lose clubs.
Malky, talking of players contributing, going off at a slight tangent, how big a fine was yours when you got sent off playing for Celtic in Hamburg in 1995? A mutual friend of ours was telling me about that the other day, and your dear dad drove all the way from, was it Glasgow to Germany to watch you, and you were sent off after 21 minutes.
Oh dear God, that was dreadful. I was only young. I was in the Celtic team, and we were going to play the second leg in Hamburg, and a fabulous stadium. Don't know if you had been there. There's 70,000-80,000 people in the stadium, and my cousin and my brother drove from Glasgow, got a ferry, drove all the way through Germany. Finally got to Hamburg 20 minutes before kick-off. I lasted 20 minutes, and it was 2 bookings, Cleverley, by the way, just so you're clear on that. 2 bookings in 20 minutes. I'm off, and I'm in the dressing room at half-time, and my head is in my hands. Young player, wrecking Celtic's European dream. I'll never play for the club again, head in my hands. And then in comes, I hear a cheer, so a massive roar, so there's 1-0 Hamburg. And then in bursts John Hughes, the other centre-back, into the dressing room. And I'm and I said, is that 1-0 half time? And he said, no, I'm off as well. And I thought, brilliant, because just at that moment, I thought it's not just me that's taking the flak for this. So I down to 9 men in Hamburg. We lost 2-0 when we were out, but it was. I actually don't think Kevin got fined for it. My worst fine was actually for Watford with Eddie. We played Sheffield United in one of the games at the Vic, and one of their wee players, I can't even mind his name, a wee rat, actually punched me in the back when we were at a set piece, and I just turned around and elbowed him right in the face, and he went down, and the ref caught me. But that was a huge fine off the back of that. I remember Gavin Mann coming and giving me the news of what Eddie was fining me, and I was distraught at the time, to be fair, but you learn your lesson.
Given the money you've got, Malky, you probably paid that one in cash.
Look, I told you, there's what I'm living in just now, up here.
Tom, did Malky fine you when you got sent off at Scunthorpe?
No, but I can remember that quite well, actually. Obviously, my first sending off in professional football, it was a rash tackle, and I think the game ended up turning on its head, and I think we lost. Did we lose that game?
Yeah, we did, Tom.
Yeah, I think Gary Hooper might have scored for them, and I do remember having the fear inside me of not only the teammates, but more importantly the manager getting sent off in. I think it was quite early doors as well. So that season for me was all about experience, and that was definitely a new one to me.
Malky, just reflecting on your dad again, didn't he play with Sir Alex at Queen's Park? I remember you telling me once.
Yeah, they played together and became good friends, and still to this day are good friends. He sends them down a Queen's Park tie now and again, and I remember when we went to play Man United for Watford, when I was a coach under 80 at the time, and my dad came down to watch the game, and it was the night Henrik Larsson played for Man United at centre forward against us at Watford, and I can remember after the game my dad coming in and going down into the manager's room, and Tom, you'll know this, it used to be, I don't know if it still is, it used to be across from the away dressing room, the manager's room.
Yeah.
And he came in at the end, my dad came in at the end, and he had 10 minutes in there, and then I got him back out and met him outside, and I said, how's things? And he said, aye. He said, Fergie introduced me to Carlos Queiroz 3 times. The red wine was flowing by that point. Top man he was, and obviously he was massively influential concerning our club actually managing to get a hold of Tom, as you know at the time, guys.
What was he like for you, Tom? Coming through the academy at United, obviously much heralded, but what was it like looking up to someone like Sir Alex?
Yeah, it was fantastic. I think at the time there was a couple of us coming through, and we'd always look at each other thinking, God, he's been a bit stricter on us, more than possibly some of the foreign signings, but I think all those decisions and how he treats you when you're young, they all start to make sense as you get older, as you realise how important concentration for 90 minutes and things like that and dealing with pressure is, and how you live your life. So yeah, I think at the time I thought, he's being a bit harsh on us at times, but no, that all makes sense, and he definitely gets 5-10% out of players just from his presence.
Malky, you were big stealing and borrowing in the summer of 2009. How much did you draw on your relationship with Sir Alex to sign Tom, and was he your number one target?
Yeah, I mean, as you guys remember at the time, I mean, I was going through a list there just before we come on, and when you look at the amount of players that we ended up, as you say, X-factor loans at the time, we ended up, when you think about it, and I've got to get great credit to John Stevenson, who was my director of football at the time. Tom, Henry Lansbury, Danny Drinkwater, Danny Rose, Craig Cathcart, Jordan Much, Andy Taylor, all these guys were playing, reserve football for the top clubs, but actually all come through and they've all had fabulous careers when you look at it. As far as Tom's concerned, I don't know how much he knows about this, but it was certainly touch and go, guys. I phoned him up. I phoned Sir Alex up, basically to ask for Tom. We did some great internal reviews on Tom, and I'd phoned a couple of people from within the club as well, and I'd get real good vibes on him. So I phoned Sir Alex to ask basically for him on loan, and fate comes into this as well, because what happened was Tom, as he knows, was out at Leicester in Division 1 the year before. And eventually, when I talked to Sir Alex years later, he had a plan for Tom. They saw him as one of their special young talents, and he had a 4-year plan for him. And big clubs can do that with their young players. And now, in the job I'm in just now, my relationship with clubs is to make sure that the top young talents try and have a pathway through. And Tom was Leicester in the Division 1, Watford in the Championship. He went to Wigan in the Premier League, and then in the 4th year came in and was 100 games deep as a footballer, and at 21, 22 was a Premier League footballer with Man United. He was supposed to actually go back to Leicester, and maybe Nigel will be able to actually back this, but he was supposed to go back to Leicester, and the day that I phoned, I believe the club secretary at Leicester had actually had a conversation with Sir Alex concerning money, and had, let's just say, not been as polite on the phone as he should have been. And Sir Alex took the hump at that and put the phone down on him. And honestly, I phoned 10 minutes later, and he immediately went, yeah, it can go to you. Just deal with the club secretary on it and get it sorted. Now, unfortunately, the club secretary gave us the wrong figure, which was, in hindsight, you can laugh at, but at the time I was not laughing, because the figure they gave us, we were like, yep, no problem at all. Let's get that done in terms of a little kind of transfer fee for a loan player. That's fine. All sits within budget. Everything's good. Tom and his agent came down. Tom was in kit. He'll remember he was sitting in kit, and we were just getting the final few pieces of paperwork sorted for him to go out and train. And our club secretary came back and says, "There's a problem." I said, "What's that?" And he said, "That's not the figure. They're quoting us 10 times that." And I was like, "Oh, mother of God." So you can imagine our chief executive, Julian Winters, saying, "Can't do it, can't do it, can't do it. We're going to," and I'm saying he's in kit. He's sitting in kit. He's ready to train. No, can't do it. And Jimmy Russo got involved. And I said, "Well, where can we go?" And to be fair, Jimmy was brilliant. Jimmy was desperately trying to back us at the time, because we were begging, stealing and borrowing at the time. We'd lost all our players. We'd nearly been an admin. So he was scrambling about. And I went back on to Sir Alex, and I was terrified this one. I was terrified to go back on to him. And he said, "What's up? What's up?" He's there. "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "I'm just wondering, the money." "Ah, well, that's the money what Leicester were going to pay. That's the money it should be." And I'm saying, "But your guy said it was that." And he said, no, it needs to be that, because it's what Leicester were going to pay. And I said, "Okay, all right." And he said, "What's the problem?" I said, "Well, we're selling somebody at the end of the month. I can't get you the money now, but I could get it at the end of the month." And it was, if you remember, Tommy Smith was going to be leaving the club, but it wasn't happening until the end of the month, and he was off to Portsmouth. And he said, "I'll tell you what, just take him to Christmas and pay me it whenever you can. All right, and I need to go." And I think he was away to put money on a horse or something like that. But it was. So I went back to Jimmy and I says, we can get him for this. And Julian was still adamant, "No, we're not doing this." And to be fair, Jimmy at the time overruled him and says, "No, I'll deal with it. You've managed to push the payment down the line. I'll deal with it, and let's get him in." And we were able to sign the form and get Tom out training, and it's still to this day up there with Troy and Danny Graham, the best bit of business I ever did. He came in and he trained on day one, and he never gave the ball away in training. And Daisha and myself were looking at each other with Alex Chamberlain after the training session when we're debriefing whatever they did, and we're going, "The new kid's a top player. He's going to be great for us." And to be fair, you were, Tom. You were terrific the whole year. But Christmas time was difficult because he had done so well first half of the year, and we were supposed to have this year-long loan, but we obviously now only had it to Christmas, with the hope that we'll pay the second tranche in the second half of the year. But Newcastle, who won our league, if you remember, Chris Hughton and Newcastle were all over it. And at Christmas, they went in to try and nick him from us and go back into Man United and take him for the second half of the season. And to be fair, Sir Alex was not having any of it, and he was so happy with the way that Tom had developed at Watford and our communication back to Man United every month, and a little dossier on how he was doing. And maybe, Kev, maybe that is when the old school tie with him and my dad actually worked, because he was wanting Tom to stay for the year, and he stayed for the year, and then he kicked on to a Premier League the year after. So it was interesting times, and a lot of it behind the scenes, but I was terrified to go back on to Sir Alex to tell him we didn't have the money.
Just how much of that, Tom, were you aware of at the time, if any?
Oh, that's brilliant listening to that story, because obviously as a 20-year-old player, you just want to go wherever Sir Alex tells you. You put your boots on and you play. And I didn't really realise of the financial to and fro-in and maybe the problem with the secretaries and stuff. So yeah, it's really interesting listening to that. And like Malky said, I think it could be easy for a young player's head to get turned by a big move to Newcastle and things like that. But Sir Alex knew best. He knew what the best direction was, and thankfully I played a full season at Watford, and I can honestly say it's probably the time of my career I enjoyed the most. Just playing with freedom and with a load of lads who I considered my mates. It was just a fantastic season.
Tom, Malky's pumped up your tyres there by saying how well you did in training. Your time to return the favour. What was he like to work under?
It was brilliant.
I know where you live.
No, it was it was fantastic. I enjoyed every single minute of it from day one. It was. I was still learning men's football really, and obviously I like to play technical football, but he installed a lot of other things along with like people like John Eustace. I think that's where I really learnt the art of second balls. We're playing alongside Eustace in midfield. Obviously Daishi was with Malky as well, so a lot to learn from him. And I just went into training every day, looking forward to it, enjoying it. And learning along the way, it was perfect for me.
Malky, it seems like sort of from what you said after Tom's first training session that you knew the answer straight away, but no reservations, I guess, in chucking Tom straight in. I think his debut at Nottingham Forest, from what you'd seen in that one session, was that enough to say this kid's got to play and he's going to be a mainstay for us?
Absolutely. It's like anything. You're an older player, and when I was an older player. You can see quality. It doesn't matter the age. So when they come and play alongside you, I remember it years ago. Scott Parker came as a kid from Charlton to Norwich to play with us, and you could see this kid's going to have a chance here. Adam Johnson came to Watford. You'll both remember under Eddie, and within one training session from Middlesbrough Reserves, you saw the difference in the quality and what the X factor that he had at the time. And Tom was the exact same. Henry Lansbury was slightly different because Henry was a wee bit younger than Tom, and they used to get lumped in the same bracket. But Henry was younger than Tom and wasn't at Tom's level at that point, maturity-wise, and ready to go really in and hit the ground running. Terrific talent, and as the years have gone on, Henry's matured. But as far as Tom was concerned, within the first training session, it was myself and we'd good staff, as Tom's put it there. I think what he's touched on there, with a real togetherness at the club at the time. We were on our knees. You both know that. You both saw the whole thing and how the whole thing took over. And when I took on the job, within a month, we were within half an hour of an administration, and we had to get rid of half the team. And it literally from that point on, Julian Winter, John Stevenson, and myself met every Wednesday and basically opened the books to each other and tried to keep us going. Julian's task was to sell the club. John's was to bring in £2 million a year in player sales, and mine was to keep a team in the division on the third lowest budget in the league. But we did have good people. We had rough diamonds from the lower leagues. We had X Factor loans, and we had academy products, and we had the old Father Time, John Eustace, and a couple of stalwarts. And I think as a result of that, everybody was in it together. I mean, I'm just writing down here. You look at the people that were there staff-wise at the time: Alex Chamberlain, Daishi, what Daishi's gone on to. Our physio was Richard Collins, who's at West Ham head of medical at the moment and worked with me with Scotland. Martin Pert is at Man United at the moment. Nick Cox was at the club. Cox is a Man United academy director. Dick Bate, who's passed away sadly, was kind of the doyen of English coaching. I had David Kerslake with me at Cardiff, who was at Watford. Graham Jones, the physio, the kit man, is now the Arsenal kit man. And run about the thing at the same time. You had Eddie, you had Brendan, you had Mark Warburton, who was in there as a youth coach as well. When you actually look at it, run a 3-year, 4-year period, a hell of a lot of people who have stayed in football and become quite successful. And I think it's important in terms of what a staff culture sets to a group of players and the ambience of getting in there every day. Tom's right. There was hard work. When the whistle blew, you better work hard. But apart from that, I wanted everybody to have a nice, relaxed atmosphere around the place and a real feel-good factor. The people, the staff that were in the club as well, Ian Moody and Jackie Shepherd and yourself, you guys, and it was a good place to come to watch training because there was a nice atmosphere around about the club.
Tom, what are your memories of that night at the City Ground in August 2009? Was it a typical Tom Cleverley performance, a little booking early on and then a late goal?
Yeah, no, it was fantastic, and my dad's a lifelong Forest fan as well, so made it a bit more special. He said it's the only goal against Forest he's ever celebrated like that, but I can remember quite a lot from the game actually. I think it was one of the only times I played with Joby and one of the only times I played with Tommy Smith. And yeah, it was a fantastic performance from us. Lochi had a good game in goal, and yeah, topped it off with banging one in at the near post. So yeah, it was a great night.
We sold Tommy right just after that game. I actually talked to him on the night and said, "Listen, the Portsmouth are ready. It's ready to happen. Just so you're aware." I was gutted because Tommy was a good friend of mine. I took him to Cardiff, but we're also still good friends. We lived in Berkhamsted at the same time, and we've kept in touch. And I was gutted that he was leaving because of how clever a footballer he was and what a good player he was. But we didn't have any option, and that plus it also meant I could pay Sir Alex back.
Can you remember the other 3 goal scorers that night? Either of you?
Tommy Smith.
Ooh. Yep.
Danny Graham.
2. Yep. So 1 more to get.
You know Malky?
I can't even remember the score.
Tom, Ben Foster would get it. He beats you on countdown, so I reckon he beat you on this.
Yeah. Joby.
No.
Go on.
Mike Williamson.
Oh wow!
I got that.
Oh, Mike's back went 10 minutes later, and he got his move to Portsmouth as well.
They both literally, yeah. Him and Tommy. I think did Tommy play the Saturday, but then they both went off, didn't they? Just before the end of that transfer window.
Yeah. There's a lot of players that I only played with once or twice, and then they left.
Yeah.
And we never told you that we were having a clearance sale 5 minutes after you arrived. It actually had to happen because of the signing because of the money we had to pay for you.
You know that I think that's the great thing about being a young player, though. You don't see any side of like the financial or the hierarchy. You literally just play your football.
I know. That's why you look like you do and I look like I do.
Well, great stuff. Plenty more from these two shortly. But now on the View from the Vic, it's time for the one that got away, which is where we hear from a fan who missed a famous game and has regretted it ever since.
Hi, I'm Charlie Zazera. I've been a Watford fan for 19 years now, and the game that got away for me was Watford versus Leicester, 2013 playoff semi-final, second leg. I've been to every home game that season. I especially remember the Leeds game before, which was pretty traumatic. And then I had a big choice to make. Do I go to that second leg, or do I play for my Sunday League team, who were also in a semi-final? I chose to stay loyal to my team. Ended up going. We lost the game. I think our keeper got sent off, and I ended up going in goal. And then I got home, caught the second half. I remember swearing madly when Canuck went over. But luckily, got to see Deeney score. But every time everyone ever asked me about that game, I have to say, no, it weren't their biggest regret I've ever made. So, yeah, that's the one that got away from me.
So don't forget, if you want to tell us about a significant game that you missed, then email us at podcast@watfordfc.com. Leicester mentioned their chaps, and it was at Leicester that, of course, Malky's already mentioned you had your first loan spell away from Old Trafford, Tom, working for a certain Nigel Pearson, I believe. Tell us about that spell.
Yeah, that was, like Malky said, sometimes things are just fate, and I was just so lucky with my 3 loan moves that I went to good clubs under good managers, and started with Nigel. It was a nice position to go to a club in January, 10 points clear at the top of the league, and not under really any sort of pressure. So I just played my football, enjoyed it, and I think when you're playing reserve team football, you always have a doubt that what level am I actually at? Because reserve team football is a hard marker. So to go out in League One and do well, and then progress to the Championship and do even better, I sort of, the insecurities went, and I got a real marker of where I was at as a footballer in the man's game.
Malky, have you come across Nigel on the circuit, and how highly do you rate him?
Yeah, very much so. We managed against each other, certainly a couple of years, definitely a couple of years for a couple of years. So always someone who was I look back in a career and I see someone who was the leader, captain of his club, leader of his team, played hundreds and hundreds of games. So you're talking about good pro to start with. And then in his management career, his teams have always been regimented. They've always been organised. They've always worked hard. He's always, had good teams, good clubs. So no, it's a good, solid English manager is what I would say. Someone that's, there's certainly a slice of humility there as well concerning knowing that we were all in it together in terms of the management game, and having that respect for the opposition bench, and a tough man, and someone that I'm delighted as to what he's gone in and done at Watford. I really am. Obviously it's been a bit of a roller coaster recently, but he went across to Belgium. It'd be interesting to find out what his take on his time over there, and coming out of it a little bit and going over there and kind of rebooting and coming back. But I'm so happy that he's come back, and Watford is now settled, and it's and he's got he seems to have a well drilled unit there again.
Yeah, watching on from afar, Malky, what do you make of just sort of, it's been quite a dramatic turnaround. Let's not forget how far adrift we were when Nigel came in to now be, as we speak, above the line and in with a great chance.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously keep in touch. Up till recently, I lived in Berco, so I keep in touch with everything that's going on. And it was funny because I was watching Match of the Day one night with my boy, and he put the team up, and it was the Watford game that came on. He put the team up, and it was and in the team he froze it, and he said, "Dad, look," and it was Ben was in goals, Craig Cathcart, Mariappa, Troy, and Tom were all playing, and I'm thinking 5 of my team are playing in the game 10 years later, which is bizarre when you consider the amount of money that flows in and out of football clubs these days and the amount of foreign players that come in. I think what Nigel's done is there's been a terrific squad at Watford for the last 5 or 6 years under the Pozzos, the talent that's been there. But I think maybe the core of the team was kind of lost over the last maybe 18 months. And I think what Nigel's done is bring that back into a real solid base to the team, because there's no way that they should have been with that squad where they were. You can see clubs in the division where you think you're struggling, you can see you're struggling, and there's maybe not enough talent at the club, and they don't have enough money to bring that talent to the club. Watford certainly weren't in that boat, and you just kind of saw it and said there's definitely a team in that squad that could actually that should be better than it is, and thankfully Nigel's gone and done that, so I'm delighted for you.
Tom, from a player's perspective, what has Nigel changed so dramatically? Just a couple of things I've seen which have been really interesting was how he moves from table to table at lunchtime and sits on a different table each time, and then secondly, how he often dangles the carrot of giving you a day off if you do things right in training, which seems to be the currency players deal in these days, is those all-important and much-needed days off.
Yeah, I think his first initial meeting that you both might have been in was good. He didn't just have it with the players, he got everyone in the whole training ground, down to the security guys, in the same room, and basically told everyone the direction that we're pulling in. And he's just got back to basics. I mean, it can sometimes get too complicated with philosophies and patterns of play and things like that. If you've got a guy like Ismaïla Sarr who's absolutely flying and in form, you get the ball to him and you get crosses in the box, and he's just made it really basic for us. But as you know, he's firm with that. There's no there's no beating around the bush with him, or there's no lack of pace or things like that. He's very firm. He's back to basics, and he's just what we needed at the right time. Yeah. Malky, just touching on Craig Cathcart there, did you realise that he's like the biggest joker at the club now? He didn't say a word for that season, did he?
He was the quietest mouse I ever knew at the point. He never actually spoke or opened his mouth, and it wasn't too long ago. It was last year sometime. I met him at Luton Airport. I was flying up and down the road quite a lot, obviously from Edinburgh back to London, and I was flying up the road, and I met him in the airport, and I said to him something to the effect of "unlucky today," and he looked at me as if I had two heads, and you were 1-0 down with 10 minutes to go. He scored the winner. He must have scored the equaliser, and he scored the winner, but I jumped in a taxi at 1-0 down, 10 minutes to go. I can't remember who the game was, but you'll all know it. And he scored the winner with seconds to go to win the game 2-1. And I said, "Unlucky today, big guy. I hope you just dig in." And he's looking at me going, "You're still as crazy as you were when you were my manager." But no, I didn't realise he's a joker at the pack, is he?
The year I was there under you, we lived in the same block, both on loan from Man United. And apart from at the training ground, I didn't see him for a full year. And then I came back to the club, and he was like, he'd had a personality transplant. He was like the funny guy of the group, but no, he's a great lad, and I think Jordan and Kev will both agree. For the last 2 years, I think he's been our most consistent best player.
Tom, do you have to have a certain sense of humour to get his sense of humour? Because I see with Mariappa had a full skewer of fruit, and he just whipped off in front of his face. He loves that one, and he's forever jumping out on people. Yeah,
it's pretty dry humour, but no, he's definitely perked up since he was 20 years old.
But it's amazing, isn't it? Because you see the differences, and you see, as Tom said, he's just touched on there in terms of, you were talking about Nigel and what does he bring? Well, he brings leadership and he brings clarity. You know, the message is clear, who's in charge, and this is what I want to do. Tom talked about Sir Alex. You know, I had a couple of guys like that as well in terms of my early career, where nowadays they might be seen as kind of old school and dinosaurs, but these guys put values and standards and hard work ethic and discipline and into you, real fundamentals into you at the time. And Dyche's doing the exact same thing just now with the Burnley players. It's clear, the leadership is clear, and he's putting fundamentals into people. And as far as young players are concerned, when young players get that, eventually they grow up, and you know, in their late 20s, you get talking to them again. I'm bumping into players who now at 33, 34 are now saying the same thing to me about young players at their club. I talked to Ashley Young a few weeks ago. It was bizarre. I had the Sky were running some of the games, and you'll probably have seen it. Sky were running highlights of the playoff final, Kev, John, against Leeds recently, and they did a kind of 40 minutes special on it. And my boy pulled me in to say that this is on, Dad, look, and Ashley was on the wing, and he looked about 12, and he was on the wing running up and down. And after the game, I turned it over to whatever channel it was on, and it was the Italian football it was on. And it was him playing live against Fiorentina for Inter Milan right at that minute. So I watched a bit of that, and I messaged him after the game just saying, hope you're well, hope you're really enjoying it. I'm so proud of you, because and I tell this to a lot of people about Ashley Young, what a good pro he must be. What I know is look at it, after Fergie buys him, 4 managers later, and half a billion pounds later, Ashley Young was still captain in Man United, and for supposed to be a fringe English player to be captain in Man United, it's a bit. You look at Jordan Henderson and you look at Milner, you know, and people talk about should they really be in that, because they are the fulcrum of the dressing room, and they're good pros. And for Ashley Young to now be at Inter Milan, and I texted him after the game just to tell him this. I'm so proud of him that, you know, he got back into the England World Cup squad at that age, is supposed to be a fringe player, and it really shows you. And he talked to me about, he said, young players, he started saying the words, Malk, honestly, young players nowadays wouldn't get it. And I'm laughing because, you know, I'm now seeing boys that were those young players giving the same messages to young players, which is fabulous to see. And as I touched on earlier on, you look at some of those names, Danny Rose, Craig, Jordan Much, Drinkwater, Lansbury, Taylor, all had really good careers in the game because they all eventually got it. Some got it later than others. And there's a couple that didn't do so well for us, as you two guys at the top saw. They came and they went quite quickly. A couple grabbed it. But at some point in their career, it clicked, and they realised how to actually go and be a good pro. And it's a big, big thing. Tom will tell you that.
Absolutely. Well, just before we rewind a little bit further, let's just give everyone the second set of clues in our trivia teaser quiz this week. Tom thinks he's got it already. We already know this guy was born in 1979, played 83 times for Watford, who were one of the 10 clubs he played for. He's 5'9". He joined us in July 2008, more than a decade after making his Premier League debut for Chelsea. He scored twice in his time at Vicarage Road, once against Preston and once against Sheffield Wednesday, just to say a night that also saw Adrian Mariappa score. which was a bit of a rarity. Final set of clues to come towards the end of the show. But I think Tom and Malky have definitely already got it. Talking of goals, Tom, that season 11, which is the best goal-scoring season of your career, I think, by a long stretch. Just sort of what was so special and what clicked that season in terms of the role you had that was getting you into those positions. I mean, you were so clinical in front of goal.
Yeah, I think obviously scoring 2 in your first 2 helps, but Malky played me in sort of an inside left position, and I was whereas in the Premier League you need a lot of pace to get those runs in behind. In the Championship, if you had clever timing of those runs and stuff like that, I was getting in behind and finishing a lot, and I was high in confidence, and it was a really, really good season for me, goal scoring wise.
Malky, with money in such short supply, how important was it to get loans like Tom and Henry Lansbury right and successful? Because you couldn't afford to get those wrong, could you?
No, you're spot on, and it's difficult because taken from Premier Reserve teams, Tom touched on it there, it bears no resemblance to men's football, and some players come in and they're not ready for the Championship. From reserves. I remember a kid come in from Arsenal who we brought in, and you could see within 5 minutes that he'd done well for Arsenal reserves, and he came into us, and after a couple of games you realised this league is too high for him just now, and thankfully we didn't have too many of those. It's that moment, can the player play against men at the moment, and then if he can play against men, what level? And is he good enough to play in the Championship? And as I said, Tom was good enough to play at that level right away. Henry took his time. Henry was good in fits and starts at that point, and it took a wee bit longer. Craig Cathcart had his ups and downs during that period as well, and it was his first move out. Danny Rose as well was another one that kind of it was an interesting period. Andros Townsend was another one that came and immediately went back to Tottenham again, never really worked. Jordan Much came in and could handle it. He came in from Birmingham and did really well for us in a short period of time. Andy Taylor came in from Middlesbrough's reserves and immediately hit the ground running. So it's you've got to try, certainly with talent ID, you live and die with it as a manager. And if you get too many wrong, you're trying to get 7 out of 10 right, because if you get 7 out of 10 wrong, you're gone. Tom was right in terms of with that attacking prowess. We gave him that ability to actually go and get into the box. It's funny because having talked to Sir Alex the following year, once Tom left and went on and got into his first team squad, I bumped into him at something, and we were discussing you, Tom, and he actually said to me at the time, he's the best I've seen inside the opposition box as a finisher. He said he's got a cool head in the opposition box, and everything calms down and slows down when he goes to do something in the opposition box. And I thought it was a great compliment Tommy gave you. Not that you ever knew that at the time, but it was that case of when you get in the opposition box, some people fluster and they screw it wide. But he thought at the time that you had a very calm head, and it showed. The amount of goals were needed. We certainly needed those goals of that year.
Back onto the field, Tom. How important was the experience of the likes of John Eustace and Lloyd and Hyder and Danny Graham at that point? Yeah,
massive. I mean, not only for the results that we got that year, but for me going forward as a player, it was, like I said, people underestimate the power of second balls as a midfielder. There's a timing to it. There's an art to it. I'm sure Craig will tell you, any striker good in the air, you won't find many harder to mark than Hyder. So I'm sure those training sessions for Craig and for myself, we learned bundles going forward and on into the Premier League. And it was real priceless part of my career, and I would always recommend it for the young players at our club. Get out on loan, even if it's League Two, you're starting there. It's a must.
And you were part of the team that night, Tom, to witness Lloyd scoring. You played quite a big part in helping him celebrate. Otherwise, goodness knows where he would have ended up.
Yeah.
Could you believe it? Could you believe it that he was there? And it was an important goal as well, wasn't it? Because it got us back on level terms.
Yeah.
Great moment.
Yeah, they still play that clip before the games on a weekend. So yeah, it's something that I see quite often. And I think everyone was in shock, but yeah, I don't know where he was off to. So I just told him, I wish it was at the other end, but I just told him to get into amongst the fans and enjoy it. Yeah. What
was he doing up there, Malky?
Do you know, I've no idea. He was. Tom just mentioned it there. You know, Hyder and Lloyd, Graham, John ended up, you know, all having 300, 400, 500 games under their belts, and Lloyd was a terrific character. He really was. But it was one of those ones where we set the team out, and we were struggling at left back. We didn't have a left back, so we moved Lloyd across to left back, and then it was a case of whoever we were looking at had to be better than Lloyd. Obviously, he wasn't a natural left back. He was right-footed, but the longer he played, the more you just realised he was Mr. Solid Consistency. And you got what it said in the tin. And whoever we'd looked at then, well, if he's got to come in and be better than Lloyd has been. So you're always looking for a left back, but every week it wasn't the position that was struggling. And because of his low centre of gravity, because of his power, and because of his speed, wingers couldn't go by him. They couldn't run him. I remember we played Swansea, and they were a terrific team at the time, and they had I think they had Dyer in the wing, and they had Routledge, and they put both over them, and neither of them got any change out of them. Certainly, it was a case of the minute you go beyond the halfway line, Lloyd, stop what you're doing and walk back to the halfway line. Don't dare go forward. So the edict was definitely on him, and he broke the rules that night, and he got fined for it. But delighted for him, absolutely delighted for him. But and he you know, what a stalwart for Watford. But incredible that night when he scored that, and I think they printed T-shirts after it concerning where I was the night that Lloyd Doyley scored.
They did indeed. They did indeed. Talking of goal scorers, as we are, let's hear from someone now who was a little more prolific than Lloyd was. Earlier this week, I had a chat with Gerard Deulofeu, who's back in Spain as he recovers from his major knee surgery.
Here in Spain, there is a crazy situation, like in whole world. But in my situation, in my case, you know, is normal because my first 2 months of the injury, I have to be at home. I have to make a lot of physio morning and afternoon, because you know my injury, my operation, you know, it's my two meniscus
yeah,
is broke, and we have to respect for 6 weeks. Not walk, and we have to take care the first 6 weeks. After this, you know, you can walk, you can do something step by step more. But normal at home, we can go out, and always demanding something, because I can't do nothing, and I'm always ordering to my partner or to my physios anything.
You say you're with your family. I think you said earlier when we were just talking before, you're living with your physio, so you're still, that means you're obviously allowed to be with him with the social distancing and everything. Yes. But that's working well for you, yeah?
Yes, yeah. Here I'm in his home, and you know, expect before the country stopped. We expect like this, and we came to my physio's home, because you know, if I have to go at home and my physio have to come 2 times per day, it would be impossible. So we expected, and now I'm here. I'm really comfortable, because here I can do physio 2 times per day, and we can go getting better every day.
Tell me a little bit. I mean, we obviously in England are looking. We get all the numbers, and you know, it looks like sort of Italy and Spain. You know, it's horrific the stories and the numbers of people that are sick and dying from the virus, just what is, obviously it's a bit different for you because of your injury, but you mentioned you're not allowed out the whole country, or everyone is on lockdown still in Spain?
Yes. Everybody at home. We just can go to the supermarket to buy the food and nothing more. So special cases, something the hospital workers and this. Yes, you can go out, but for us, nothing more.
Let's take it back a little bit, just a couple of months, like you say. Well, perhaps, if you don't mind, talk a little bit about the injury in a moment. But most importantly, the surgery that you had, it was, like you say, the double meniscus, the cruciate ligament. The surgeon was very pleased with how that went, and you're saying you're doing physio 2 times a day. What sort of program are you on now?
The surgery was really perfect because was a difficult surgery because my meniscus external was really, really bad, so completely broke. And after the surgery, the doctor can leave my own meniscus and don't take out and put another one. And yes, the first 6 weeks calm. Since I left the hospital, I'm working every day 2 times, and in physio at the moment the most important thing now the first 2 months in that type of injury is the extension, completely extend the leg and the flex, and that's the most important thing. After you have to put more muscles because your muscle is completely gone, and you have to make strength in your muscle, but at the moment just this. After in 10-12 days maybe I can start doing bike, walk, leave the crutches out because I want to leave the crutches out, and yes, I'm happy, looking forward every day.
That's interesting you say that. I remember, I think we had a little text message, I think the day after your injury, and straight away I remember you saying to me, this is day 1 of my recovery, it is all positive from here. Do you think that can help you? It's going to be a long road, we know, with this type of injury, but is that your mentality, that literally from, okay, it happened, but now I start fighting from the first day?
Yeah, because my mentality changed in last 2 years. I changed my food. I changed something in my life, or I can improve my mentality. And the first 10 minutes after the injury, I was really bad. I was sad. But when my partner and when my doctor comes to the dressing room, after this, always positive. I always think in positive, and I don't mind how long it will be, because I want to be back healthy and really strong. So I have the lucky, the summer is in the middle, and I can work between the last, this season and the next one. And yes, my mentality is really good, and I can say you in any day I said but no, always think in positive.
So I guess straight away you had lots of messages, didn't you? And I know supporters have been getting in touch with there was that nice video last week we saw on your social media, and I think just straight afterwards as well, tell us you had some nice messages even from the Liverpool team, I think, didn't you?
Yeah. After surgery was amazing how many message I can receive from lot of teams. So Liverpool, so the Man City director, Real Madrid, Barcelona, a lot. Also, a lot of friends. So I said to the group of the team, I can feel the quality human around me after this bad situation, and I'm really proud for that. The people is looking after you, and they send me a message. Very, I appreciate a lot.
I don't know if you've watched the footage back of it, but there was a nice touch just when you were leaving the pitch, when I think Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain came over and just gave you a little tap. Someone who knows, I guess, perhaps straight away he's been through something similar, and those sort of things, like you say, that's the football family comes together, doesn't it?
Yeah, because Oxlade-Chamberlain, I knew him before because Hector Bellerin was my teammate in under 21s, and sometimes I went to his home and we go together with Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, and also he suffered, I think, 1 or 2 times this injury. After he sent me a message, he's really good guy. Also, around you there are a lot of good guys, and yes, this type of guys who he suffered this type of injury, they can help you. I'm asking sometimes to the guys who suffered this injury. I'm asking, what I have to do, what you feel, and it's good.
And I think just last one on this one, didn't you get a message, I think, straight away from Virgil van Dijk as well from Liverpool?
Yes. He sent a message to Troy, to the captain, and the captain sent me the message to me. And yes, after 2 days, I answered him. It wasn't on purpose. I don't know how to
it was an accident. Yes.
Yeah, it was an accident, and it's a typical action in England, and I don't have nothing to say. Just keep going, and I'm gonna be back soon.
Now, whilst people who are listening to this might be towards the end of the week, we're talking on Tuesday, April the 7th, which is quite a nice day because 1 year ago today, I think we all know, was a much happier time for everyone, and of course us as well, and you in particular. I guess your phone must be quite busy today. With lots of messages, lots of people on social media remembering what happened.
Yes.
Just again, I know you've talked many times about the goals and things, but yeah, just give us an idea of just where that is in your career so far as to how that day was.
Yes, it was it is a really good memory in my career. The afternoon starts a little bit angry, but but yes, it finally really good. Scoring 2 goals, winning that type of game, going to the final. In Wembley, it was really good. I'm really proud of that, and I think I'm really proud because I think the town, the Watford fans enjoy a lot. They send me message, best day in my life, something like that today. A lot of messages like this, and I'm really proud of that.
Best goal you scored? Best goal do you think you've scored?
Last day I made one interview, one question answer, and I said this one is the one of the best. This one, and with Everton I scored one against Arsenal, also this one. But in terms of semi-final in terms of Wembley, and this one is the biggest one.
I think we're all still watching it back today, just wondering quite how you got it around the defenders and into the top corner. But we're very, very glad you did.
Yes. In that game, when I went to the pitch, and I believe in this 20-25 minutes who left, and it happened. And yes, I said today, Watford make a post in the Twitter, and I said we need more afternoons like this. So I hope I'm gonna be back soon and healthy, and enjoy some afternoons like this, because we are a really good team, and we can play games like this. So it's not normal. You go to the final last year. You beat Liverpool 3-0. No, that's the reason. Is you are a really good team, but you have to be more consistent. And you have to believe it more, and something like that.
And just finally, just a message maybe to the Watford supporters, and just people in general about how life is now, and how everybody's just got to stay strong and stay safe, and football will be back when it's ready, I guess.
Yeah. No, I'll just say, in my case, I'm really good. I'm safe at home. I'm recovering to my injury. Training a lot, doing physio, and yes, I'm not. I want to be calm. I want to be back just soon and healthy, and the Watford fans have to know I'm gonna be back this year, but with calm. So when I'm gonna be back, I'm gonna be strong. I don't want to be at my 50%. No, I'm gonna be back at 100%, playing really good, and that's just I want to say. And after, just say to all fans to stay at home. If you can, don't go out. Nothing, no exercise, nothing, because here in Spain, in Italy, you can feel a lot of families suffering a lot, and I think in England it's gonna be a little bit late in England and in America, and you have to take care with that virus, because it's really contagious. A lot of people taking this virus, and the only thing you can do is stay at home.
Tom, I just heard from Gerard there. I'm sure you can empathise what he's going through right now, because you've had to battle back from your fair share of injuries. Just how tough has that period been? Because was it 2 Achilles injuries in the space of 18 months?
Yeah, that's right. And I think the tough one for me with the first one is there was no real timescale to it. I was fighting a losing battle before I had the surgery. I was trying to not have surgery because I was desperate to get back, and it just kept deteriorating. So it was 6 months of banging my head against the wall, and without a real light at the end of the tunnel. But yeah, I got the surgery, and then after that, never looked back. And so I can feel what Jerry's going through now. There'll be lonely spells, but he'll come back, and he'll have a moment of magic, and look back on all the hard work and say it was worth it.
Was that right? You took a member of the club's fitness team on holiday with you, and is that gig still available? Because getting you ice creams and rubbing sun cream in doesn't seem too bad a gig.
Yeah, no, it was true. Someone come away with me because I wasn't having a summer break, as it were. But when I got one holiday, and he came with me, and it didn't actually work out in the end. I still ended up going for the surgery. So I don't think that gig is available anymore.
Malky, just on Deulofeu, who would have thought this club would be in a position to sign a player that calibre during the dark financial days of your reign?
Yeah, I mean, as I say, I'm when I go back, and now and again I get a wee invite back from the club to come back and watch a game, and I look at the stadium, and the stadium looks fantastic. The crowd are rocking. The club are in the Premier League, and they're able to purchase players of that ilk. And as I said to you, the squad, recently when I looked at how the depth and the strength and the talent that's in that squad, it makes you think, wow, that would have been not bad to actually have a few of those on call. But just even run about the place, I remember Tom will remember it, the players' lounge and the old stand, and what the dressing rooms looked like. It was archaic and it was falling down at one point. But the worst thing of the lot was the pitch. I was on the pitch recently in the last 6 months when I was asked to do an interview at half time, and I'm looking at this bowling green, this Deso surface bowling green. And I remember one night coming out of one of our games, Tom, when we played a Tuesday night game, and walking out after probably talking to you two, giving me dodgy questions in a press conference after the game. And it was pouring down on a Saturday night, chucking it down. We were in our 15th year of a 10-year pitch. And the rugby posts were getting put up for Saracens going on at the following day. And the mud was ridiculous. And I'm thinking, how are we ever going to recover this thing? The pitch was hellish. So that's probably the biggest thing where I'm actually jealous of right now, the pitch, and how lovely a surface it is that the boys have got to actually play on.
Tom, the surface certainly helps, doesn't it? You play with Jerry at Everton. I think when we signed him, I think you said to me then, here's a player that, he can win games just on his own, with the pitch that we've got. Just how good is he? And he'll have to be strong mentally though, won't he, to get to come back stronger after this injury. Yeah,
I always think those players that can make those stalemate games into 3 points are hard to come by, and he's definitely one. His ability 1v1 against the defender is very high on the list of players I've played with, and yeah, that can be priceless at times. So we'll hope he recovers well as quick as he can, but obviously without rushing things. And he's a good pro, Jerry, so I'm sure he'll be fine.
Well, a little bit more to come shortly from Malky and Tom. But now on the View from the Vic, we get our second segment of fan stories as we find out about the fan who went the extra mile to get to see a Hornets match.
Hi, my name's Ollie Price. I've been supporting Watford for 18 years as a season ticket holder. And the game I went an extra mile for was Watford v Crystal Palace in the FA Cup quarter-final. And I was skiing in Austria, and I decided on the Wednesday evening that I would change my flights and book return flights home on the Friday to come home early, 2 days early, to watch Watford v Crystal Palace. Obviously very, very pleased that I did come home, and very grateful to some close friends who managed to get me some tickets.
Great memories, and if you want to tell us your story of going the extra mile or about the one that got away, email us at podcast@watfordfc.com, and it could be you featuring next time on The View from the Vic. Time for the final clues in our trivia teaser this week. Our mystery man played 83 times, 5'9", played for Chelsea, played for Malky and with Tom. He was a left back, also played for the likes of Fulham, Sheffield United and Burnley, and was an FA Cup winner with Chelsea in 2000. We'll hear from the boys just for a couple more minutes, then we'll give you the answer, but I'm pretty certain everybody's got it by now.
Malky, I wanted to, in your role as performance director at the Scottish FA, I wanted to ask you about a youngster we've got on our books, Sonny Blulow Everton. I tend to like to follow the 18s and the 23s, been hugely impressed with him, and I know you worked very hard to get him in the Scotland pathway. Tell us a bit about him.
Yeah, I got a tip off that Watford had a youngster who was doing really well and had Scottish blood. So I investigated it, and I flew down and met your academy director at the training ground, and met Sonny's mum and dad, and we had a good conversation, and just laid out basically where I thought we could go with this, and invited them to one of our warm-up games out in Spain. We were going out there to play against Czech Republic and Hungary, and invited them with us for a week. No obligation, just come with us, see what it's like, and if you want to crack on and commit to us, then fine. If not, no worries. So they were happy to do that, and they came out. The mum and dad came out as well, and it was quite quickly. Again, I saw it was a youngster with great technique, centre midfield, little player. One of those rare gifts to actually be able to pick up the ball and run by someone and beat a man and go by them. And he's been with us now for 2 years. Part of our under-18s that went out to a European event in Turkey to go and play in a FIFA event in Turkey, to go, and we played against Paraguay, Cameroon and Angola, and Sonny Blue was terrific. He really was. I've got great hopes for him going forward in the future. As I say, I know that it's a softly approach. He's still got to mature. He's still got to grow, but he has got fabulous technique, and I've got high hopes for him, Kevin, in the future. As I say, it's important where the pathway for youngsters now run about that age when they get into reserve football, and then where they go from there, and when they get to play against men quickly. It's something I bang on a lot about in Scotland. We've got to get our young players out playing against men. The big one that you actually look at was one that's come through from my youth team, Billy Gilmer, who 16 we took him on a fast track, and we took him to the Toulon tournament and under 20 tournament. But it was always that case of what would he be like when he eventually plays against men, and I think people have seen that recently about him. But certainly Sonny, there'll be a point where it's his turn to get out there and play in men's football. But I've got high hopes for him, guys. I really do. I'm delighted that it's a Watford player, obviously being my club. But as far as him having the Scottish blood in him, his mum's mum was from Leith. Despite the name, his mum's mum was from Leith, and she's really proud. She came over and she watched the game, and she had a tear in her eye when he was standing there with the national anthem going and wearing the Scotland strip. So he's a big part of our under 19s going forward.
And Tom, what would you say to our young players if they came to you, leaning on your experiences, obviously of going out on loan, coming from one of the biggest clubs certainly in Britain, possibly in Europe. What can you pass on to our young players, and in terms of advice and sort of that work ethic, that professionalism that you exude every day?
Yeah, I think I was lucky enough to have really good role models and example setters, especially when I went back up to Man United. So yeah, day in, day out, people like me, Maps, Troy, even like people like Hughesy, who's a fairly young player, but he's a really good example setter, and we just try and do that for our young players day to day. And if any of them wanted advice, they can always come to us. But I'd definitely recommend going out on loan. I mean, we have young players come train with us like Dolby, and he's, to me, on the face of it, he looks like a prolific goal scorer. And yeah, you just want him to be chomping at the bit now to get out on loan, to go to League One, score some goals, and then he's banging in everyone's thoughts. So I think going out on loan is the main bit of advice I'd have.
Tom, does it just show also sometimes it's not just about the ability? You've been at Man United, and it always struck me what Sir Alex said about Ravel Morrison. He's the most talented kid I've ever seen, but sometimes the ability just isn't enough, is it? And just how good was that kid when you saw him coming through?
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, like Malky said, he had loan players earlier, and some just get it straight away, and you either get it or you don't. And it's hard to explain what getting it is, but when a young player comes up with us, we know straight away. And it's just, Willie, even though he's super technical and got loads of ability, is he prepared to run for a brick wall? Is he prepared to train as hard as possible 5 days a week? And all the other things that come with having loads of ability. So it's definitely just not a technical aspect. You need that other bit as well.
It's really important, guys. It really is. It's sorry if I jumped in there. I can't highlight that more than anything. That talent is there, but it's personality and everything else that goes with it that actually makes you a player. Recently, we had a midfield masterclass day for about 120 coaches in Scotland, and I managed to get Paul Scholes and Darren Fletcher to come up to be at it, and Scott Brown was my other guest. And we put the three of them up on a Q&A to about 120 guests. And, I mean, I also put their career records up. I mean, you think about it, Scholes, Fletcher and Scott Brown in terms of games, titles, cups, everything else that goes with it, appearances. And every one of them come up with the same thing about that hard work and attitude and discipline when they were young. And Tom will know this guy, but they talked about Eric Harrison, Dan Fletcher and Paul Scholes kept going on about Eric Harrison, and for that class of '92, the group that he came through, that he was the reserve manager, that they all come through, and just like Fergie, he gave them a torrid time, and he was so tough on them, but it was tough love, and that group, honestly, you know, it was fabulous listening to this Scholes and Fletcher talk about them and talk about what talented youngsters needed as well as talent to actually make it. And our youngsters, it's great to hear, you know, that Tom and Troy and Marks are actually passing that on, because nowadays it's not quite as prevalent. Captains aren't quite as prevalent. The dressing room's not quite as vociferous. You know, young players sometimes can get away with murder unless there is those characters in the dressing room. And when I hear you talking about Jordan Henderson, and I remember Stuart Pearce telling me about what a good pro Milner was in his younger days. These are the guys that are coming through now that have to look after our youngsters as well. As it's easy coming from a coach and a manager. It's sometimes kids think that as old hat, but when it's the older pros that are actually demanding standards, it's what makes young players actually become footballers.
Yeah, I mean, Eric actually trained my youth team only once a week. He wasn't full time, and you sort of used to dread him coming out, but you look back and you think he has installed basics in us that, like even timing of headers, how important throw-ins are for fullbacks. It's all things that are underestimated, but they're so important.
Fundamentals is what they put in you that are there forever, and it's why you're still a player at the top level.
Guys, we could chat all day. It's been absolutely fascinating listening to you, but we're pretty much out of time. Just before you go, let's give everybody the answer that has been on the tip of, I think, both your tongues for quite a while. I'll give you can say, go on, Tom. You can tell everybody. Our mystery man is
John Harley.
John Harley. It was yes. Quick word on him. Obviously, played for you, Malky. You play. We've kept him out of the discussion of that season. You'll noted that he didn't appear in the script or in any of our questions for obvious reasons. But he was another experienced player that year.
Terrific boy, John. John was one of the nicest lads and most popular players I think I ever was involved with. Terrific kid and talented footballer, really was. And as you've listed his clubs, you know, good career as well. But a really, really nice bloke is what I would suggest him more than anything. Really good lad.
What was he like to play with, Tom? What was he like for you as a young player?
No, I can't add much more to that. I think players like John and we've not mentioned Don Cowie either. He was sort of a similar sort of character and really quality footballer, and they were really important for me as a young player and as a young side that we had players like that.
Real good pros, John. Real good professionals.
Well, we've had two real good professionals on the View from the Vic this week. Malky, Tom, it's been brilliant. Thanks ever so much for joining us. Kev, same to you. We'll be back again next week with much more. We wish you and your families all the best. Have a great Easter, everybody. Stay at home, stay safe, and we'll see you next time.
Hey you, click here for more videos.